Hey guys, welcome back to another video. In this one we'll be talking about what is clean code and why we use it. If you found this video helpful, make sure to like and subscribe and so you can come back to this if you need to. So what is clean code? Well, clean code is a style of coding um, which is pretty much used in mainly favorable in companies, and you must learn this as a for your own benefit and for the benefit of any other programmers you work with. So clean code is readable, writable, and scalable code. Readable is how easy you can read the code. That's very self-explanatory. Writable means you could write the code um, and you understand what the code is doing. And scalable just means you can add more functionality to the project without breaking the entire code. So how can we do this? Well, the most basic and easiest way to do this is by using comments, and using comments to explain what a certain code block does is really important. So let's just say we had a function, and let's say it has like a function name was calculate, which is not a really good function name. I need to call def, and it takes parameter num1, num2, and then it calculates something like the area. So we'll do num1, num2 divided by 2, and this will be an area for a triangle, and we can return area. Spell that right. So looking at this, we'll understand what this does. This is fairly small, but let's say this was a bigger code block and we don't understand it. Well, it'll be only nice to have a comment. So let's just say working out area of a triangle, and that should be sufficient for a comment. Another way of clean code is make your variable names meaningful. As I wrote here, calculate. This isn't a really meaningful variable name because you can calculate a lot of things. So we can change this to triangle area, and we can change this to height and base. Change these parameters too, and now this is more meaningful. And yet again, let's say if we had a more of a complex algorithm here, then it'll be really nice to really specify what the variables are. Not make it too long, but like where it's clear and concise. And what you don't want to do is repeat variables. So let's say if you had another function called calculate, um, do something like that could break your code, and it could be a headache fixing that if it's a bug in the future. And the third way of writing clean code is using code that's in a function or in a object. So a function, which I've showed you before, which it'll be def, and we'll give it a function name. Let's just say we had a function name called, let's get our function back with the area, and let's delete this. Okay, so let's just say we had a function of, let's say, def, and we'll do something like Pythagoras. Hopefully I spell that right. Let me just make sure I spell that right. Yeah, I spelled that horribly wrong. Pythagoras, and let's just do that. We'll do side 1 and side 2, and what we can do is side 3 is side 1 squared plus side 2 squared, and this would figure out the c squared, but I don't know how you would square root in the top of my head, so I'm going to leave it as c squared and just print side 3. And this is a fairly simple function as before. Let me return this instead. Side 3. So this is a fairly simple function, but where functions are limited is scaling up. So let's say we want to scale this function up to figure out also how to do Sokotoa, or what we call it, trigonometry. So if you want to also figure out how you want to do trigonometry, well, since our function name is called Python, it wouldn't make sense to do trigonometry here. So what we're required to do is make a new function called trig. I'm going to name it trig, and I'm just going to say angle O, angle H, I mean not angle, sorry, side H, side O, and then angle whatever, and then you would do side, okay, side A adjacent is side O divided by side H, and then you would multiply that by angle, sine of angle, which I don't know how to pull up sine without doing the math import, which I don't want to do, but you get my point. If you want to use functions, you will have to use different functions, which isn't that bad, but there's a more efficient way of doing it, and that's by having it in a class. So let's introduce a class. So we can do class triangle, let's just call it triangle theorem. You spell it N-E-E-M, and then we don't need to inherit anything, and we just need a couple of things. We will need let's just say side 1, side 2, angle, let's just set that 0 at first because it's not 100% needed, and yeah, and now we can just set this up. I'll set this up quickly. Alright, so I've set this up, and then what we can do is make our methods now. So I'm just gonna copy and paste this simply, actually. And then now we can also introduce the trigonometry method, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to just leave like this quickly so it's not too long. But using classes really help with scalability, and it'll make your code cleaner overall. As I mentioned before, make sure that your function does a specific task rather than having one function that does everything, because if you have one function that does everything, that kind of removes the point of a function, which is to separate tasks. So separate each task with different functions. And one last thing you can do is review your code regularly, and this will allow you to spot bugs before you actually run your entire code. And spotting bugs before you get a whole list of error messages is really good. So reviewing your code regularly is a good habit to have. So why do we write clean code? Well, clean code is really important when we want to understand our code when we come back to it a couple of days later or maybe a week later, because if you're not expected to understand a block of code, if you have a code file with, like, let's say 300 lines or 500 lines, you may not understand what block of code was exactly, and you may not know where you left off with. So having comments or really good variable names that are meaningful is going to be really good for you when you come back. Another thing is it'll help other programmers understand what you wrote, and this is really valuable when you're working in a team. So if you have comments again and meaningful variables, they'll be really good for group projects. And also functions are also really good because your uh, other programmer could just use that function rather than having to figure out which variable name they need to access. Um, and when it comes to things, writing clean code does improve development time, because the cleaner the code, the less bugs you'll have, and we know bugs will take a very long time to find. So the cleaner the code, the less bugs. The really big point of clean code is also scalability. As I said, scalability is important when you're adding more functionality to the code without it breaking. So let's say if you want to add a new functionality to Netflix, obviously you want to make the code as clean, so it's scalable. A good way to do this is using object-oriented programming. It'll allow you to add features and add code without it necessarily breaking really easily. And at the end of the day, reading code could be really hard for some people. So making it readable, making it organized and clean is going to be appreciated. So we would use clean code whenever we are making a real life project or a big project, and this is really important because usually in real life projects, as I said, you're going to add more features to it, and if not, other people are going to have a look at the code. And with big projects, you don't want to be wasting so much time um, going back and forth trying to figure out what this variable means, what this block of code means, and you don't want to find the function that you lost. So having clean code in big and real life projects is really important. Comments are really crucial when you're working in a team or a long-term project. As I said before, you're going to be coming back to this project maybe after a couple of days or a week, so comments is really important there. Use functions when your uh, project only has like one or a small task to do. It's very specific, and use object-oriented programming when you want to be as scalable as possible and when you have a big project. And again, review your code to see if you made any mistakes or if there's any bugs that you caught before you run the program. That will be really helpful. And that's the end of the video. If you found this video helpful, make sure to like and subscribe, and watch out for the next one.